TV7 Israel News is made possible thanks to your generous donations. Shalom Ve'erev Tov, good evening. Welcome to our daily TV7 Israel News Bulletin, broadcast from Jerusalem. US President Donald Trump says the ceasefire with Iran is on life support. The Ayatollah regime in Iran threatens the United States, Israel, and its regional partners amid prospects of reigniting hostilities. And the Houthis in Yemen launch an unmanned aerial vehicle towards Israel. The fragile ceasefire between the United States and Israel with the Islamic Republic of Iran is on the verge of collapse, with President Donald Trump characterizing it as on life support. According to the American leader, the Iranians had initially agreed to allow the removal of all of their enriched uranium. However, merely a couple of days later, the Ayatollah regime altered course, failing to add it to their proposal.
Sir, you said the Iranians agreed to allow the removal of all their enriched uranium?
Yeah. Well, they did 2 days ago. They didn't, okay? They did 2 days ago. They said, you're going to have to take it. We were going to go with them, but they changed their mind because they didn't put it in the paper. So when they sent us this document that we waited 4 days for, that should have taken 10 minutes to do, look, very simple. We get that. They guarantee no nuclear weapons for a very long period of time, and a couple of other minor things, but they just can't get there. So they agree with us, and then they take it back.
President Trump continued by highlighting his frustration with the Kurdish militias in Iran, who had evidently received weapons from the United States to confront the Ayatollah regime. Nevertheless, those weapons were not distributed amongst the Iranians seeking freedom. Rather, the recipients evidently kept the weapons for themselves.
You know, the people are watching it. They want to go out on the streets. They have no weapons. They have no guns. We thought the Kurds were going to give us weapons, but the Kurds disappointed us. The Kurds take. They have a great reputation in Congress. Congress says, oh, they fight so hard. No, they fight hard when they get paid. So I'm very disappointed in the Kurds, but they were given. I said it wasn't going to work, by the way. I guess I have to say it. I disagreed with what they did. They gave it. I said, they'll never get there. And I was right. I like to be right. In this case, too bad, but we sent some guns with ammunition, and they were supposed to be delivered, but they kept it.
In light of the latest setback on reaching a tangible negotiated solution, President Trump decreed in response to a question that the ceasefire is on life support.
For the time being, the ceasefire remains in place?
It's unbelievably weak, I would say. I would call it the weakest right now. After reading that piece of garbage they sent us, I didn't even finish reading it. They said, I'm not going to waste my time reading it. I would say it's one of the weakest right now. It's on life support.
With prospects of renewed hostilities growing by the day, Iranian officers are clearly stepping up efforts to voice threatening rhetoric, warning the United States, Israel, and their regional partners of dire consequences.
Today as well, we warn the enemy that if they once again resort to aggression and once again become afflicted with a miscalculation, in the way that they were in the past and now in fact are enduring and paying for the price of those past mistakes. If the enemy once again becomes afflicted with a miscalculation and resorts to aggression against our country, they will certainly face other surprising options. These options, in addition to being the determination and will of our colleagues and comrades in the armed forces, will be more advanced equipment and renewed and new methods of war, and perhaps most importantly of all, new arenas of war. Meaning that the war will enter an arena that the enemy did not predict.
In addition to the threat of kinetic reprisals, the Ayatollah regime has also leveled a threat against any country that would sanction the Islamic Republic, pledging to hold the strategic Strait of Hormuz hostage.
From now on, countries that follow the United States in imposing sanctions against the Islamic Republic of Iran will certainly face problems in passing through the strait.
It is important to know that the U.S. Treasury Department has announced a string of new sanctions against 12 individuals and entities that have enabled the sale and shipment of Iranian oil to China, effectively enabling the Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps. A dozen designations that have been announced merely 2 days before President Trump is scheduled to travel to Beijing for a meeting with Chinese President Xi Jinping. The crippling measures implemented follow 10 additional designations over the weekend of Chinese individuals and companies over accusations they had aided Iran's efforts to secure weapons and raw materials required to build ballistic missiles and one-way attack drones.
China firmly opposes illegal unilateral sanctions that have no basis in international law and have not been authorized by the United Nations Security Council. We have consistently required Chinese enterprises to conduct their business in accordance with laws and regulations, and we will resolutely safeguard the legitimate rights and interests of our companies. Regarding the situation in Iran, China has repeatedly made clear its solemn position. The current priority is to make every effort to prevent the resumption of hostilities, rather than exploiting the conflict to maliciously associate and smear other countries.
Turning to Israel, where the United States Ambassador Mike Huckabee, in a Q&A session at Tel Aviv University, insisted that President Trump had given the Ayatollah regime every opportunity to alter its malign course that effectively would have ended the war.
He's given Iran every opportunity to make changes within their own aspirations. Got to remember, I remember vividly in 1979 when the Ayatollah and the radicals took over Tehran and took over the Iranian people. They started by overcoming the U.S. Embassy in Tehran and taking 52 American hostages, held them for 444 days. A lot of Americans seem to forget the history here. But the history for 47 years has been consistent. Death to Israel, death to America. It's always been about ultimately taking America down. Israel is the appetizer, but America has always been the entree. And it was always a matter of, if we can get past Israel, then ultimately we'll set our sights on America.
In a subsequent question on what he would like to see, and a day after vis-a-vis Iran, Ambassador Huckabee highlighted his hope to see the Iranian people regain their freedom.
The most important thing that could happen in the day after is that the Iranian people would gain their freedom, that they would once again be this phenomenal Persian empire that they were before the Ayatollahs took over and pretty much destroyed so much of the culture, the modernity of Iran. People maybe don't know, if they don't have a pre-1979 vision of Iran, that it was a world leader, not just a regional leader, but a world leader in medicine, education, fashion, music, art, architecture, an amazing culture, and an amazing people. I would hope that someday all that they were could be restored again, and they would have the freedom to be expressive and have the influence that they once had.
Ambassador Huckabee was further asked to expand on the additional fronts which Israel faces, to include the Gaza Strip, Lebanon, and Yemen.
Keep in mind that every front of conflict that Israel faces, whether it's Hamas, the Houthis, or Hezbollah, all of those dishes of hatred and terrorism, all of those dishes came out of the same kitchen from Tehran. All of the Hezbollah, Hamas, the Houthis, they are proxies of the Iranian regime. If you ever are able to deal with Iran, then you really are going to turn the spigot off and drain the water out of the hose that right now is supplying terror activity in Lebanon, in Gaza,
so
in
the
Yemen,
action
and the rest of the
plan
world.
is to...
It is important to know that earlier today, the Israeli Air Force Air and Missile Defense intercepted an unmanned aerial vehicle that was launched by the Iranian proxy Ansar Allah, which is dominated by the Houthi tribe in Yemen. No injuries or damage were reported. Separately, combat operations continue to take place throughout southern Lebanon, where the Iranian proxy Hezbollah is repeatedly launching one-way attack drones against IDF forces that are deployed in forward defense posture, attacks which regularly result in reports of casualties among IDF troops. Meanwhile, Israeli President Yitzhak Herzog traveled to Sheba Medical Center in central Israel to meet with wounded soldiers.
This is a heavy and difficult campaign, and I am sure that the IDF and the defense establishment are doing everything possible to deal with this threat and all of the other challenges of the campaign. We must all understand the magnitude of the challenge facing the wounded and their families. When we hear about wounded people, we do not always understand how difficult the struggle is for the person himself, for his family, and for those around him. These are long and complex rehabilitation processes. Here at Sheba and everywhere else in the country, we see amazing results of treatment, dedication, and rehabilitation. I wish great success to our warriors wherever they are, strength and encouragement to our heroic soldiers, and of course strength and encouragement to all those who have been injured.
Thank you for watching TV7 Israel News, which is made possible by the generosity of our viewers. If you would like to help support TV7 Israel, which is exclusively donation-based, you can do so via our website at www.tv7israelnews.com. Please keep praying for the peace of Jerusalem and redemption of Israel. I'm Jonathan Essen wishing you an Erev Mevorach, and God willing, until our next update, Shalom from Jerusalem.